Happy hump day. That's right, it is Wednesday. It is hump day, which means the week is almost over. Which means it's almost the weekend. And unfortunately, we're in the middle of a heat wave, which this is not what the video is about, but we have not yet had a hurricane this year. We have not had a hurricane this year. I think last year we were on our third or fourth hurricane by this time, and about four other tropical storms. We currently have three tropical storms happen this year in the Atlantic. But with that being said, poor Texans in prison, like Griner is in Russia. For those who don't know, Griner is the NBA basketball, whatever, WA, that's in prison in Russia because she decided to bring drugs to Russia. You know, she didn't like America, so she fled to Russia. Well, she really didn't flee to Russia. She just thought it was better opportunities there in Russia to make more money. But yet she dragged United States. And now she's in prison in Russia, begging America to help her out when she committed a crime in a foreign country. So I had no sympathy for her. But according to the Dallas Morning News, Griner remains in prison in Russia, and here are four similar cases involving Texas. Wrongfully, rightfully detained Americans can become pawns of a foreign governments against the U.S. I mean, which is true, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of people wrongfully detained become pawns in the geopolitical sphere. President Joe Biden signed an executive order Tuesday aimed at increasing the flow of information to families of Americans detained abroad and imposing sanctions on criminals, terrorists, or government officials who hold them captive. But what if they commit a crime? Does that go out the window, or are we still going to hold them responsible? I just want to know. Griner is a Houston native and famous WNBA player imprisoned in Russia, wrote to Biden early July to not forget about me and other American detainees. Roughly 16 Americans are detained, according to the AP. I don't know each case, so I don't know if they're wrongfully detained or rightfully detained. That is, people jailed in foreign governments or other groups who the United States government believes that they're innocent or detained in order to extract concessions from the U.S. I mean, becomes a tit for tat after a while. U.S. leaders have been reluctant in the past to exchange prisoners for wrongfully detained Americans, fearing that the practice could set a precedent of false equivalency and lead to more Americans being captured abroad. I mean, those are definitely valid concerns. Families often spend years pleading with the U.S. to negotiate for their loved ones' release. A number of high-profile cases of wrongfully imprisoned involves Texans, and here are five, including Brittany Griner, Houston native and star of the Phoenix Mercury, and two-time Olympic gold medalist, was arrested in Moscow February the 17th after Russia police said a search of her luggage found cannabis vape cartridge, which is illegal in Russia. The arrest came just days after Russia invaded Ukraine. I don't think there's a coincidence, but however, Russia is a sovereign country, and if you commit a crime in a sovereign country, you're going to be arrested. She's been jailed since the arrest and faces 10 years in prison if convicted of transportation of drug charges. Griner pleaded guilty to the charges early in July, saying that the canisters were packed there by mistake. Mistake, my ass. Her lawyer, Maria Blagavavia, pretty sure I'm butchering that name, I'm sorry, said last week Griner had a doctor's letter for medical cannabis. I don't know about the cannabis laws in Russia, whether that is a acceptable reason or not. Griner plays for the UMMC Ekaterinburg, a Russian team, in the WNBA offseason. The club director, Maxim Rakbavish, testified as a character witness on Thursday. I really don't know how to pronounce these people's names. I really don't. The U.S. government of Biden administration faced increased pressure to secure Griner's freedom, though the AP reported that the Russia diplomat said negotiations for her release are unlikely to proceed until the trial concludes. But she broke the law. She's not falsely or wrongfully detained. The State Department officially determined early May that Griner was wrongfully detained, meaning that the U.S. would work more aggressively for her release by moving her case to a special presidential envoy for hostage affairs. But she broke the law. I don't care what you think about Russia. I don't care what you think about cannabis. She broke a law in a foreign country. Regardless how you may view such laws or such country. Let's see here. The Baylor superstar and 8-time All-Star was an honorary starter for the WNBA All-Star game, where other players wore her name and number on their jersey. Rep. Colin Allred, Texas Democrat of the House of Foreign Affairs Committees, and Rep. Sheila Jackson Lee, Houston Democrat, introduced resolution that was passed in late June calling for Griner's immediate release. Yeah, you really can't do much for a foreign country. Trevor Reed, Fort Worth native that was imprisoned in Russia 3 years ago, was finally released in a prisoner exchange on April 22nd. He was serving a 9-year term for charges dismissed as preposterous by the U.S. Reed was arrested in 2019 after Russian authorities said that he assaulted a police officer, causing the vehicle he was transported to swerve and endangered officers. Surveillance footage later shows there were no swerving. Just taking your word for it. In exchange for Reed, U.S. released Russian pilot Kakakistan Yasha Henkyo, I'm guessing on the name, who was serving a 20-year sentence in the federal prison for conspiracy to smuggle $100 million worth of cocaine into the U.S. By price, Reed's release due to his failing health. White House aides said Reed had developed tuberculosis in a Russian prison. I hear Russian prisons are not that nice. Newly freed Reed told CNN in early June he was recovering from his time in prison, and he filed a petition asking the United Nations Working Group of Arbitrary Detention to declare his imprisonment a violation of international law and demand compensation from Russia. Good luck. Like I said, I don't know about your case. I can't say one way or the other. Austin Tice, Plano-born Marine veteran, Austin Tice is among those detained missing the longest. The journalist who grew up in Houston went missing in 2012 when he traveled to Syria as a freelancer for McClatchy, the Washington Post, and other news outlets. He was detained at a checkpoint days before his planned return. Tice has not been heard from except for a 43-second video released 5 weeks after his disappearance, which he was depicted as a captive of a group of unidentified armed men According to Trice's family, the U.S. officials believe that the Syrian government is holding ties, but Syria denies it. I mean, you go to a country that's in the middle of a civil war. More power to you. You got more balls than I do. News of U.S. talks in Damascus to free Tice in 2020 were the first known talks in nearly 10 years since the Obama administration suspended diplomatic relations with Syria after the onset of a civil war in 2012. These negotiations under Trump administration did not result in Tice release. President Biden met with Tice parents early May. August 14th will mark the 10th anniversary of Tice abduction, and Tice received the 2012 George Polk Award for war reporting in 2012, McClatchy newspaper presidential award. The Sit Go Six. The six Sit Go executive Josefo Caritas Torres Toledo Tomayo. Oh no, it's Tomeo Valdel, Jose Luis Zambrano, Alirio Jose Zambrano, and Jose Angel Perea were summoned to the caucus in 2017 for a business meeting at the headquarters of their parent company, Venezuelan oil company PDVSA. They were arrested shortly after arrival. 3 years later, they were found guilty of corruption and embezzlement. The Sit Go Six are considered to be imprisoned on dubious charges. One of the six managers with the Houston Oil Refinery companies, 5 are U.S. citizens and 1 is a permanent resident. All Texas or residents, all from Texas and Louisiana. Cardenas was released in March and returned to his home in Cady at Fort Bend Star reported. U.S. broke diplomatic relations with Venezuela in 2019, recognizing the opposition leader Juan Guaido as a legitimate elected president rather than the acting leader Nicolas Maduro. I don't know. I don't know these charges, but it seems to be plausible that they actually committed crimes. I think the only one so far I read was Austin Tice. I mean, you can have some level of sympathy, but he kind of knew the risks going into a civil war in a foreign country. And of course, the final one is Gerald Kennemore, another Texas native. Gerald Kennemore was detained and imprisoned in Venezuela in late March. The computer programmer from North Texas lived in Colombia since the 2019 and was detained while crossing the border with his Venezuelan girlfriend, the AP reported Tuesday. He was charged with a criminal association and conspiracy punishable up to 16 years in jail. Kennemore was one of 3 Americans arrested and detained in Venezuela earlier this year. Shortly after the release of the other 2 wrongfully detained Americans, the State Department did not confirm the status of Kennemore's case, but the AP quoted the spokesperson confirming that the 3 arrests, saying that the officials are advocating for the immediate release of all wrongful detained Americans in Venezuela. They don't really go into great detail. Like I said, the only one I know of, the only one I know for sure is the Brittany Griner one. And like I said, you don't go to another country, break their laws, and expect the United States to bail you out. And that's true even if you weren't breaking the law. I mean, I get that there's countries that are going to take advantage of the United States citizens abroad. I wish it never happens, but the sad truth is it does happen. Anyways, leave a comment down below on what your thoughts are. Do you know more of the story of the other 6 groups that I'm missing? Let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts are. And smash the like and subscribe button on any and all platforms, or just the platform you're currently watching. But most importantly, have yourself a wonderful day, morning, or evening.